Okay, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our first webinar of the webinar series titled UK-Russia Collaborations, run by two APEX international committees, UKPN and APEX Russia. So our first webinar today is going to be Collaborations Matter, and this is going to take a format of discussion. Please keep an eye out for the next announcements of the next webinars. We'll have them on a monthly basis. So before we get started, I would like to address some housekeeping messages. So first off, we will be following the APEX Code of Conduct. You can find it here at this link, but generally please keep the discussions ethical, be nice to each other. So thank you for that. And second, we have our webinar in English with a simultaneous interpretation in Russian. So you can choose the appropriate language if you go to the interpretation button at the bottom of the screen. And we would like to ask you to choose the language you would like to listen to this webinar and stick with it. So try not to switch between them. And also, if you do understand English, then we do encourage you to stay on the English channel as well. So again, this session is being recorded. So we will be archiving this video and posting it online after the session, and hopefully all of you will get a link for that as well. And if you do have any issues with that, then please do let us know. And again, attendees of this session will be automatically muted. However, if you do want to speak up and communicate, then please type us in chat and we'll pick up your question for the panel. So before we get started, I would just like to kind of give a bit of a background of where this webinar series are coming from. We had a project last year trying to find the gaps in UK-Russia collaborations, and we published a report on that, so the roadmap to future collaborations, and I believe you'll get the link in the chat as well. But generally, based on that, we did identify some issues that we would like to kind of address. And with this webinar series, we'd like to follow some of the guidelines in this roadmap. So it would be creating a step-by-step guide on establishing UK-Russia scientific connections, creating a list of existing bilateral research projects, creating a list of funding bodies for bilateral projects, establishing a dialogue between the scientific community and policymakers, which I think is very important, and creating a step-by-step visa and permit application guidelines. As all of you know, it can get a bit messy there, and identify and establish a format to facilitate knowledge and data sharing between scientific partners, digitize and translate some existing documents, and finally get better understanding of the literature, both in English and Russian. So that would be it from me, and I'll let Rhiannon to take from here and to lead the discussions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sola, and welcome everybody to today's session. We have some great speakers today, and what we're going to start with is if the speakers could introduce themselves, just stating their name, affiliation, and job role, and then we can get started with the discussion. So I'll start with the first speaker on my list, Tom Williams. Can you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Rhiannon. Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Tom Williams. I'm a PhD student at the University of Southampton in the United Kingdom. I also have a studentship with the University of Laval in Canada, and I'm a project member of two research groups within APEX. And that's it for me.
Thanks, Tom. And Ben Boys.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Ben. I'm a PhD student at the University of Brighton, and I'm also the head of UK-Russia Early Career Researcher Collaborations at the UK Polar Network.
Thanks, Ben. Do we have speakers on the Russian side? Is Tatiana here? Tatiana, are you able to introduce yourself?
Yeah, do you mean Tatiana Yakovleva? Sorry, just checking.
Yes, sorry.
There might be several on the line. Yeah, so I'm just going to turn my camera on. Hello, hi. Yeah, so I'm Tatiana Yakovleva, and I head the UK Science Innovation Network in Russia, based at the British Embassy in Moscow. And I also lead on the Arctic research theme in my team. Thank you.
Thanks, Tatiana. And on my list for potential speakers from Russia, I have Evgeny. Do we have Evgeny here? Okay, perhaps not.
Well, I'm from Russia, and I can also introduce myself.
Please.
Yes, my name is Valentina, and I work at the cultural and educational section of the British Embassy in Moscow. I'm a manager of the UK-Russia University Alliance program. The goal of the program is to support the links between the UK and Russian research communities. Yeah, thank you for inviting me to the seminar.
Thank you, Valentina.
Sure.
Thank you, and it's great to have you. And we also have Yulia online. Yulia, are you able to introduce yourself to the group?
Да, здравствуйте, коллеги. Я буду говорить на русском. Да? Егор, правильно? Да. Я сейчас нахожусь на русском канале, поэтому, видимо, меня переводят. Мне очень приятно. Спасибо большое, что вы все подключились и собрались. Мы ожидаем еще нескольких докладчиков со стороны России. Я надеюсь, что они в ходе дискуссии подключатся. Меня зовут Юлия Заика, и я представляю Польский научный центр Российской академии наук и также Национальный комитет АПЕКСа в России. И буду рада тоже поучаствовать в дискуссии. Спасибо большое.
Thanks, Yulia. Okay, great to have all these speakers with us today. And it seems like we've got some speakers from both representing Russia and the UK, and also with people who have great experience in collaborating between the two. So if we just start off back at the beginning with Tom. Tom, can you give a brief description of the projects that you've carried out regarding UK and Russia science, and how you carried those out? So what sort of project format was it? So a bit of a background on what you've been up to, basically.
Of course. Thanks, Rhiannon. I'll start off with the first project that I worked on, and this was in February 2020. I took part in a scientific workshop in St. Petersburg. Now, this was in person, and the aim was to facilitate and establish UK-Russian scientific links and capability to open opportunities towards considering pan-Arctic research. What I was involved in was presenting my PhD research to date, and then a focus group in the later stages of the workshop came up with an idea and then worked on this idea to produce a scientific paper. Personally, my aim was to establish new scientific links within my own expert network and then explore opportunities for a Russian-based PhD chapter. But the outputs were the high-profile scientific paper, which I'm a co-author, the chapter proposal for my PhD, and then an agreement on student exchange visits. In December last year until March, I was part of a public policy project where we investigated scientific diplomacy in the Arctic between Russia and the United Kingdom. This was virtual, and it was aimed to connect considerable complementary expertise in Russia and the UK, predominantly between the University of Southampton and Russian Academy of Sciences. I developed my own understanding in the field of public policy and then policy engagement. And the outputs was that we produced a 3-day scientific workshop, the policy brief, which I'm a co-author of, and then a scientific paper, which is in the works. And then lastly, starting next month, I'm part of another project to build on that scientific partnership that was previously established within public policy to improve understanding on the consequences of climate change in Arctic coastal ecosystems. And this will be through direct engagement with the existing network of APEX, so Association of Polar Early Career Researchers, to engage these researchers with Arctic research interests. Within the public policy, my role was a scientific researcher, so I did an extensive scientific policy literature analysis, and this fed directly into the policy brief and then the 3-day workshop. My role is still being discussed for the next scientific project. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. That sounds like a fantastic range of ways that you were able to contribute, different ways that you were able to contribute to science, many different formats. Policy briefs and scientific papers are, very different beasts, and the timelines that you create them on are also very different. So that sounds like an excellent experience for you in shaping your kind of portfolio of scientific reports. You mentioned you were able to join a student exchange program. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
So during the first workshop, so in February, after speaking with scientists based at St. Petersburg, and then the biological research station off the White Sea, we had an agreement that I would propose a PhD chapter and then go back to Russia and then work at the research station, biological research station. This, because of COVID, obviously fell through, but we still have that connections with that research team. So if in the future there is opportunity, we will go back and develop a new proposal and then set out to send that out, essentially.
Brilliant. Thanks, Tom. Just one more question while we're here. So do you have any advice for those people looking to start collaborations on how they should go about it, and what are the challenges and the perhaps challenges and also good things that you found that helped you?
So one of the first things that I did was research the field. There's two ways that I went about this. I looked towards established networks like APEX and the Science and Innovation Network, and particularly looked on their websites to see what they were doing, and if there are any advertisements for webinars such as this or conferences that you can apply for. And then I also looked within the literature itself. So specifically, I looked at where the current scientific attention is at that present time, and if there's been a rise in publications in any particular field, and then looked a bit more in depth to why this might be occurring. From there, I reached out. So essentially what we're doing today, attending a webinar on conferences, but also asking questions. I actually struggle with this quite a lot, but one of the ways that I worked on this was I realized you don't have to ask questions instantaneously. You can build that question and then go back to it and contact the person who is presenting directly via their contact details or email, and let them know that you're really interested in what they were talking about, and you have some questions if they are willing to discuss them. And then lastly, I looked for helpful resources. The world is almost always digital now. There are resources on the web that you can find. One of the things that I saw was a website called Open Academics, which has some really interesting resources on cold emails, CV building, and proposal writing. And that's the three things that I had to advise for future collaborations.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And that Open Academics sounds like a really helpful resource, especially for that you found really helpful. So thanks so much for speaking with us and for providing all of these fantastic resources and what worked for you. Talking of the networks that you involved yourself in, perhaps we can go to Tatiana Yakovleva, sorry. And you can tell us a bit more about the Science and Innovation Network, Tatiana, and how that can help people who are looking to start collaborations.
Yeah, sure. Very happy to. I'm just going to turn my camera on so everyone can hopefully see me and the Arctic map behind me, which kind of explains, I guess, kind of the role that I'm playing in the team and the involvement I had with Arctic research and the UK and Russian communities. So a very brief intro on the UK Science Innovation Network. I'm conscious that a few of the people on this webinar may have come across us already. So we are a global network that was set up by the UK about 20 years ago. And we've kind of expanded over the past 2 years and currently cover about 50 countries and territories. And there are about 112 SIN officers like myself. So SIN is the acronym we use for the network. We kind of usually work from British embassies, consulates and high commissions. And the main aim of the network and SIN officers is to help foster, develop, strengthen mutually beneficial partnerships between the UK science community, UK universities, research centres and their counterparts in the host country. So in my case, this is Russia. And then the work that we do, obviously science and innovation priorities that are set up in the UK by the UK government. And we obviously look at the interests and strengths in a given host country to make sure that we can facilitate these links and help build partnerships, networks between scientists and new projects that, again, advance our knowledge in various fields of science. So in the case of SIN Russia, we've focused obviously on Arctic research, and that's the area I've been leading on. So it's been an absolute pleasure to work with APAX Russia and UKPN. I think we've been doing that since 2018 when SIN Russia was involved in supporting the first workshops at that time. So before the pandemic, they were in person in Moscow and Cambridge. And we've been heavily involved in a number of other activities kind of supporting them. And it was a pleasure to join the Arctic courses as well. But kind of beyond the early career researcher activities that we've been involved in, particularly on the Arctic front, we have been doing a number of workshops and conferences, kind of bilateral, but also in some cases trilateral. So we've been doing events with colleagues in Finland and in the Nordics, where we've got SIN offices too. And again, that focused a lot on building links and sharing best practices and looking for collaborative opportunities in the future. And that covered a number of strands within Arctic research. Some of the ones that I mention are Arctic marine research. It's been a big focus for us over the past few years. Then terrestrials, for example, northern forests and ecosystems. And there have been a number of others. We have switched to obviously webinars and kind of online format of work. And 2020 was actually one of the busiest years, I'd say. So things never kind of dropped. And I think that demonstrates the interest, kind of buy-in on both sides. Both research communities in the UK and Russia, respectively, are very keen to continue that expert dialogue. One of the things I'd probably mention might be useful is in 2020 and 2021, together with the NERC Arctic office, SIN Russia developed and delivered a series of webinars. They're called UK-Russia Arctic Science Links webinars. So one of the core aims of that project was to keep the momentum, continue building links and connecting the research communities in the middle of a pandemic. Because obviously people couldn't travel, couldn't do field work, couldn't do kind of practical things. And we were hopeful that these would help create practical collaborative opportunities. And each webinar focused on a specific research center university in Russia. So we gave the floor to researchers who would deliver short presentations where they would cover their institutions, some of the collaborative opportunities, including opportunities to work together using infrastructure, and things where they were really interested in having international collaborations. And we've delivered 4 of these with different partners. They were quite successful, I'd say, given the number of people who took part. We recorded them. So again, all of the materials are currently available on the Galactic Office website. And we're hoping to continue with that because we've got more exciting things planned. Because obviously Arctic research is a very important area, and we're hoping there'll be more opportunities, particularly now Russia is chairing the Arctic Council 2021-2023. So, for example, the upcoming event that I can hopefully use this platform to advertise, hope that's okay, is the 16th of November, and there will be about Siberian environmental change and the special issue of Ambient Journal. So again, we're doing that together with Sheffield University, Tomsk State University, and Galactic Office. So again, I'll be happy to provide more details later. And just to say in general, we are obviously working with researchers, with the research communities. The University's Research Centre is always happy to hear from you, both kind of in terms of feedback and collaborative opportunities, and also learn more about what you're doing already, because there are loads of exciting projects and partnerships that are developing at the moment. So yeah, and I'll probably stop here. Thank you.
Thanks, Tatiana, and thanks for that range of resources where we can get involved with collaborations between the UK and Russia. Sounds like there's lots of exciting things on the horizon, and it's really good to hear that with the Russia chairing the Arctic Council, that's going to continue. So it sounds like some fantastic opportunities for our listeners today. So going on to Valentina. Valentina, can you tell us a little bit more about the sort of work that you've been carrying out and how you have been doing these projects for us?
Yes, sure. Well, as I said, I support the UK-Russia University Alliance program here at the British Embassy in Moscow. Well, with the program, we support mainly early career researchers, and we try to support the research collaborations between UK and Russia. The program was launched in 2019. Following the UK Vice Chancellor's and Principal's mission to Russia. We come from the assumption that the most successful researchers have typically spent time in another country early in their careers. That's why we place special emphasis to support the mobility of early career researchers. Of course, there are many challenges for the UK-Russia research collaborations, and we, with our program, try to contribute to some extent to meet those challenges. I will give a brief description of their activities, which we support under their program. We have developed together with the University of York an online course for Russian early career researchers on how to write academic papers in English. The course familiarizes Russian early career researchers with the UK requirements towards the submission of the research papers for the UK and international scientific journals. And we plan that this course will be offered on the annual basis, and more and more Russian early career researchers will be able to take part in that course. We also launched a new fellowship program for Russian early career researchers who pursue their PhD degrees in the fields of Arctic research, life science and medical research, and climate research. We announced the call this September, and the fellowship program will support from 3 to 9 months placements of Russian early career researchers at the UK universities. And we hope that we will continue with this program on the annual basis as well. But those are the opportunities for the Russian early career researchers. We also support several partnership projects between UK and Russian researchers on the annual basis. And we have a program, it's called the Researchers Links, Through this program, we provide travel grants and funding for the workshops between UK and Russian universities. This year, we awarded 7 of such grants to 7 partnerships. So these are basically what we are doing to support the UK-Russia collaborations. And if somebody has questions, they can write directly to me with more questions, and I will provide more information about those opportunities.
Thank you, Valentina, for that information. And yeah, if you would also like to provide any of that information in the chat for our participants, it sounds like there are plenty of opportunities to get funding for both for Russian and UK scientists to get funding for collaborative science. So that sounds fantastic. Do you have any advice for people looking to start collaborations, perhaps early career researchers themselves? Do you have any specific advice for people who might be interested in starting collaborative science?
Well, judging from my experience, the most successful start of the collaborations were during the Research Links workshops. This is when researchers from Russia came to UK or vice versa. They spent some time together. Usually it's a week-long workshop. They met like face-to-face, and they could really establish these personal connections. And many further research collaborations came from those face-to-face workshop activities. So I think that the face-to-face is very important, and this personal connection between the researchers.
That's interesting to hear. So do you think that with COVID, that has brought in fresh challenges for increasing collaborations? And do you look forward to more in-person events?
Yes, sure. Yeah, COVID, of course, brought a lot of challenges, but many of such collaborations went online, and they're still going on. And yes, we hope that in the future we will have more info face-to-face.
Great. And I just got one more question for you. You mentioned exchange of people between Russia and UK institutions. So with those institutions, are these partnerships that you have already established, or is it something that those scientists determine themselves when doing those exchange programs?
Yes, the topic is determined by the scientists, by a specific university and applicant. The university should establish like initial link with the Russian or UK partner, and then submit us the joint proposal for a joint workshop in their specific field.
Great, that's really helpful, I think. So thank you, Valentina.
You're welcome.
Shall we move on to another speaker? Ben, would you like to talk about the projects you've been involved in and give us a bit of background on the work you've been up to with your PhD?
Yeah, sure. So my PhD work is I'm looking at reconstructing the dynamics of the Fennoscandian ice sheet in northwest Arctic Russia, so in the Kola Peninsula and Russian Lapland in the Murmansk-Oblast region. And by and large, it's quite a remote project. It's done by remote sensing, so mapping landforms using satellite imagery. But of course, there's a bit of fieldwork involved as well. And this link was initially established by my supervisors through the Interact program. They've got an Interact station in the Khibiny Mountains on the Kola Peninsula. And also, I've built on it since by working with colleagues at the Kola Science Center of the Russian Academy of Sciences. So we very much rely on the Russians in a sense for help with fieldwork. We can only plan so much on the UK side, such as getting out there and a bit of logistical help, but organising permits and so on, unfortunately, we have to rely on our Russian colleagues. But they're very helpful in it, and we offer as much help as we possibly can along the way. And as part of this project, so far we've published 2 scientific papers. One of them involves Russian co-authors. The other one has help from some of our Russian colleagues as well. And we're looking to be publishing some more in the near future to display some of our collaborative research. And then some of the other projects I've been involved with are through the UK Polar Network. So initially, at the start of my PhD, there was the Arctis program. It was a field course for early career researchers, and it was happening in the Murmansk Oblast region in Apatiti. And so I was lucky enough to be able to go to this course, and there were various interdisciplinary aspects to it. So going from the social sciences right through to the physical sciences, and mixing with colleagues from the UK and Russia. And that was a good way to start some of my collaborations out in the region. And then I was also involved in Arctis 2020 as part of the organising committee. And that time we were in Siberia, in Khanty-Mansiysk. And again, we ran a similar course running interdisciplinary aspects to it. And these courses definitely have opened up networking opportunities for early career researchers, including myself, and many others have since used those opportunities to carry out new projects or to expand their existing projects in the region. And then obviously with COVID, we couldn't do one of those last year, so we switched more to an online format. We ran our Arctic Science Priorities project, where we had to look at asking the scientific community what priorities they think we need to look at in the future. So Sauli mentioned some of these priorities earlier on. And then we also had a conference session where we were holding an open discussion to discuss the various priorities, how we overcome the difficulties and the challenges in the region, and what we need to do to make science more accessible in the region, in the Arctic region, in the coming years and months.
Thanks, Ben. That sounds really interesting. And you've done a wide range of on-the-ground projects, it seems, both in Russia and working with Russian scientists. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Interact program that you speak of?
Yeah, so Interact is a group of research stations dotted around the Arctic region. You can apply for funding through the Interact program to be able to visit one of these research stations to carry out fieldwork. That generally short-term projects, a maximum about a month, I believe. So for us, it was using the research station in the Khibiny Mountains as a base for us to be able to carry out fieldwork in the region over the summer in 2019. I'm not entirely sure exactly how many stations there are in the Russian Arctic. There's quite a few that I know of. Various locations, all quite easily accessible as well. And if not, the research station managers and local scientists will also be able to help you access the station, the field, and help you with your research.
And I believe there's a dedicated site where you can see the whole map of all the Interact stations, and there's a catalogue where you can determine what kind of science they do, what kind of environment they're in, what kind of facilities they have, and you can apply. So it's actually a really fantastic kind of facilitator of on-the-ground collaborations, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Just Google Interact EU and I'm sure you'll find it. And they've got stations all over the Arctic, and they're all well described and plenty of opportunities for lots of different types of research.
Thanks, Ben. One more question. So how have you been challenged by these sort of projects? Is there anything that you found really challenging that you've had to overcome, or any advice that you can give to other people?
I would say the biggest challenge for me is the language barrier. There's no getting around it, and it's an obvious barrier. My Russian is not very good. I've been learning for the last 2 years, and I'm getting there slowly. And my colleagues in Russia, on my science project side, they don't speak fantastic English either. So a lot of what we speak, I suppose you could call Runglish, is a mix of English and Russian, and a lot of arm waving at times. But we do understand each other, and we do get through it. And I think it's just one of those things that you have to make a bit of an effort to try and learn your partner's language, but also just take your time with it and understand, you know what both of you are trying to talk about, and you will overcome that key barrier. And I would say that the other aspect of big challenge is permits. It can be quite difficult and take a long time to get permits to take samples in and out of Russia, for example. It took us about 2 years to get a permit for one set of samples. But again, just have patience with the system and be polite about it as well, I suppose. Just take your time and it will eventually happen.
Thanks, Ben. And yeah, going back to the language aspect, what we found with COVID and having these things online is it's absolutely fantastic to be able to have an interpreter live speaking on these. And that's a real advantage of being much more tech savvy and tech able with our meetings now online. But for sure, it is a difficulty to overcome in the field. So we'll also hear from Saula, but I'd just like to say for the audience, if you have any questions that you'd like to ask any speakers or any general questions, please raise your hand or put the questions in the chat. We'd love to have your questions. So I'll just also offer Saula to talk about the work that she's been doing, and we'll have a few questions with her. But yeah, if you have any general questions, please do come forward. Saula, on to you. Can we hear about what you've been up to?
Thank you very much, Ronan. So I haven't really done much of a scientific work in Russia. However, I've been involved with UKPN organizing the courses Ben just talked about, so Arctis 2019 and 2020. And I think I never really thought about it, but Ben is right in the sense that they do have interact stations. So both courses took place at places that do own interact stations, which I think is a great opportunity to kind of get your toe into the Russian Arctic at first, and then again, as Ben mentioned, just kind of start those connections. And it's been a huge pleasure. I got involved with organizing the course once, and then second time, and then more and more, and met lots of different people, made lots of different connections. And actually, I'm in talks with one of my colleagues in Russia, thinking about bringing together a project. So we tried applying for funding before, but because I'm a PhD student and not like part of the staff, it was a bit difficult to get the funding for like a smaller project. However, I'm hoping to submit soon. And once I have my PhD, I do hope to get involved a bit more with the scientific parts of those collaborations as well. And personally, I think those webinars and everything, like some of them that we've organized ourselves and the other ones that I just kind of got invited to, is a great way to generally find out what kind of research is happening in Russia, meet amazing people, and just get talking. So yeah, that would be my, I guess, future kind of my own future ideas.
Great. So do you have any advice for people looking to start collaborations? We talked a lot about the Arctis fieldwork, so that sounds like a fantastic opportunity for people. So that kind of practical experience, do you think that's really important?
I do, yes. So we've got lots and lots of positive feedback from participants, especially because it was organized in the Russian Arctic. I think for UK ECRs, it's such a great opportunity to actually get to go to the Russian Arctic or like Siberia and meet people that they probably otherwise wouldn't, because like it sounds like Tom, for example, has been very proactive, kind of researching different ways to start the collaborations, but not everyone is also so confident at the early career stage, which we also kind of found out with those surveys we did last year, is that the younger the stage of a career is, it is a bit more challenging to just kind of, get ballsy and say, okay, I want to message this amazing lecturer, professor in a different country and say, hey, I want to work with you. So kudos to Tom. I think like it's amazing that you've been so proactive, but not everyone has kind of that courage to do it. So I think Arctis was a great opportunity for people to kind of just get started. And as Valentina mentioned, I do think that face-to-face kind of meetings is very important because it's not always in webinars and talks that you get to know people, but it's more like, in the evening over a pint or during discussions during lunch and things like that. And I kind of, being in the course, I did hear people starting those conversations, and I really hope that they took it further and build on that.
I think that's something you definitely learn when you go to conferences and start, moving around in science and research, that it is those out of hours chats that is where you start those ideas. And, they are really important. And online conferences have been a challenge for everyone, I think. But, there's pros and cons to both, for sure. And yeah, you're right. It's great to hear that people like Tom have been so proactive. But with Arctis, one of the great things is, you're kind of all in the same boat. You're all starting out, and it's quite it's a new, fresh kind of group, and you're all hopefully full of enthusiasm, which brings such a great energy to these things. So yeah, it sounds like a really great opportunity for people to get involved in. And I guess that brings me on to ask, are we hoping that there will be new Arctis fieldworks in the future in person?
That's a bit tough question. I sure hope so. It all depends on the funding, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that because of the positive feedback that we got so far, it would be kind of a great opportunity for new people now, because I think, with new people starting their PhDs in the past 2 years that we haven't actually met yet, we do hope that they'll also get that opportunity that we were given, being able to participate in those courses. And I think last year we got an invite from somewhere far east saying, why don't you have a course like this here? Because it seems like you've been to the Arctic, you've been to the Siberia, but you kind of tend to stay in the western part of the Russian Arctic. So I think it would be a great opportunity to kind of explore and see other people as well. But that's, again, one of the, if the audience would like to, again, refer back to the roadmap, I think we have it in the link is on the chat. One of the things we did identify last year is that it would be very, very useful to have courses such as Arctic on a bit longer time scale, rather than like only a couple times and then you kind of move on to a different thing, to have it as a thing that runs on a yearly basis, so that maybe like if someone wasn't able to get to the course, even though they applied, they can do a bit more research and kind of, get ready for the next year and then actually get to go to the course, because I don't think there are too many people actually involved in this like UK-Russia Arctic collaborations. So I think it would be a great way to, again, promote this kind of science and get more people on board.
Brilliant. I totally agree.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, I can't really give you a direct answer, but as far as I know, like just from my experience, I think it would be great to have something again. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so we have 10 minutes left. I'm going to now ask all of the speakers how the collaborating between the UK and Russia has impacted their career and how they see, the benefits of that and that's brought to them, maybe on a small but also big scale. I think collaborations always have many impacts on us. So if we could start with Tom, how has this impacted you?
Yeah, okay. Just to go further with what Sally was saying, the reason that I was so proactive was that I was quite naive with the opportunities. So I think if I had greater knowledge and accessibility to the stuff that was just mentioned, then I probably wouldn't have had to be as proactive. But in terms of the impact it's had on my research, it's definitely broadened my research horizons in terms of the fields that I've investigated. I'm a benthic ecologist by specialty, but I've been working in public policy and policy engagement which are important fields to consider when writing proposals in the later stages of scientific careers, as that's how you understand your research to be impactful and how you disseminate it to appropriate people, stakeholders and users. And then also just being able to establish new scientific links within an own expert network. And as others have mentioned, making friends, the initial links, cross-country collaborations is incredibly important in any sort of circumstance, not just marine, research in general.
Absolutely. And to collaborate, you have to put yourself out there, don't you? And it's very easy to remain in your institution and work with those people closest to you. So it's kind of challenging yourself to do that as well, which is always going to benefit you, I think. Ben, have you got anything?
Definitely agree.
Ben, have you got anything to add there?
Yeah, I would definitely say that a UK-Russia collaboration has helped me quite a lot in my research, looking at past ice sheets. Certainly here in the West, we have had limited access historically to Russian language scientific publications. And so the science really hasn't been able to advance so much. We've been left with a lot of uncertainty about what might have happened in Russia. And one thing I did notice at the start of my PhD is that, we did just focus on Western stuff. And through my collaboration, I had greater access to Russian language publications. And all of a sudden, we've got this wealth of knowledge that apparently didn't exist, but it definitely did exist. And that obviously is a great help, not just for me and my work, but I think for the wider scientific community as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, different countries have different ways that they spread their research. So in tapping into those and speaking with those people, then we can also learn so much more, which is so beneficial for ourselves in our own research. We don't have to repeat things that have already been done, but we also learn so much from different perspectives. Sala, have you got anything to add there?
Yes. Well, for me personally, I think, again, it was meeting the people and even making friendships. That was very important. And as I said, I do hope to get involved into the Russian Arctic science for my postdoc in the future. It's been a great experience. And also now being part of the UKPN for over 3 years has been, I think, quite impactful just in terms of other skills that we don't always think about. But I think you kind of pick them up as you go during your PhD. So I got better at networking, better at presenting and meeting people and putting myself out there a bit more often, things like that. That, the soft skills that you don't really get from doing research, but you do get it from participating events like this or getting involved with some different organizations, such as, again, UK Polar Network, and I guess, working with Apex Russia. I would guess my focus would be not so much on the scientific parts of it, but rather gaining those soft skills that I think very, very useful for anyone's basically future career, even if you don't decide to stay in academia, but go into industry or something like that, it's still really useful. So, yeah.
Yeah, it really helps us highlight it's all about teamwork, and we're better than the sum of, we're more than the sum of our parts if we work together. I think that's the saying, teamwork is important basically, and also learning how other people do things is a real confidence builder on how we interact, and it's really important in science, but in all careers really. Yulia, would you like to come in on this? How has your work impacted you in collaborations impacted your career?
Здравствуйте, спасибо большое, Ренан. Я хотела, не очень привычно мне выступать на русском языке в нашем замечательном российско-британском пространстве проектном. Спасибо. И очень интересная дискуссия получилась, очень интересная беседа. Конечно, российско-британское сотрудничество активно повлияло и на мои навыки, и организационные, и в том числе научные навыки, мыслительные. И я тоже хочу согласиться с коллегами о том, что большой круг друзей у меня образовался и в России, и в Великобритании. Это очень здорово. И я бы хотела, знаете, обратить ваше внимание на то, что сейчас очень активно у нас, особенно на арктической повестке, на арктической арене, обсуждаются вопросы не только председательства России в Арктическом совете, но и начинаются дискуссии по поводу того, что нам скоро, на самом деле не очень скоро, но все равно предстоит Международный полярный год, который предыдущий был своего рода прародителем Ассоциации молодых полярных ученых. И мы с вами сейчас пока еще в позиции молодых ученых, но когда наступит следующий Международный полярный год, это 2032-33 года, мы уже будем с вами, я так думаю, состоявшимися учеными, особенно те, кто собираются оставаться в академическом пространстве. И все это сотрудничество, которое у нас сейчас набирает обороты российско-британское, я думаю, оно выльется в устоявшиеся связи, и мы будем с вами писать замечательные проекты, издавать разные научные книги и ездить друг к другу, я надеюсь, чаще и проще, и я надеюсь, что все горизонты для нас в этом смысле будут открыты, и сейчас мы закладываем такой фундамент для будущих наших с вами академических связей.
Thank you, Julia. Sorry. Valentina, did you want to say anything before we finish up?
Well, actually, I can't comment from the researcher's point of view, but as a manager of the exchange programs, I can say that, yes, those exchanges and collaborations are very, very important. And I've seen how they've changed people's lives. Yeah, and contributed to many positive developments.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tatiana, anything to add before I finish up the session?
Thank you. Maybe just to say, it's been great to be part of a session, and I think it's really important to have these sort of discussions, both for early career researchers and colleagues who've been in academia for kind of a while, particularly for Arctic research, because of all the positivity I think that they bring out, and they demonstrate that actually a lot of the things are possible and partnerships are possible. When I look back on the past 4 years that I've been leading on the Arctic theme and Senrussia and all the things I think that we've managed to deliver together with Apex Russia, UKPN, and a number of our wonderful partners at UK and Russian Universities Research Centres, I feel very proud of what we have achieved, I think, for the research communities, and I think for progressing knowledge, sharing best practices, and just giving opportunities to colleagues, because I've seen a few of these encounters and projects lead to fantastic new longer term partnerships. So thank you. Look forward to the next, 10 years or so.
Wonderful. Thanks, Tatiana. And so, I think we'll close it there. We're just on time. Thank you to all of our speakers. That's been such an interesting discussion, and I hope it's been useful for some of our participants today to learn more about how we can engage between UK and Russia in such a wide range of activities, both practical, virtual, social, and physical sciences. I'd just like to draw your attention to the fact that we will be running monthly webinars through the same channel, through UKPN and Apex Russia. And our November webinar will be on financial mechanisms that can facilitate collaborations between the UK and Russia. So what sort of funding and grants are available for early career researchers, as well as the wider scientific community for those collaborations. And December, we will be discussing language barriers and how we can overcome this in our collaborative work. And January we will be looking at the regulatory norms and how these might come into the work that we do between the UK and Russia. So look out on our social media channels and on the UK Polar Network mailing list and the Apex Russia mailing list for information on our upcoming events. So those will be Twitter, Instagram, our website as well. And if you've got any questions, don't hesitate to get in touch. I hope you've all enjoyed the session today. We'll leave it there. Thank you.